Hello, and thank you for meeting with me and the team to discuss the Urban Forest Strategy Program for the City of Melbourne, with a focus on acquiring and retaining volunteers from the community. For our project vision statement, it is to establish citizen collaboration pools while increasing community engagement in this urban development project through the use of effective communication platforms that can reach a large range of participants, strengthen the community network, and personally involve these participants directly with different aspects of the project's operational process. An overview of the Urban Forest Strategy Plan involves details regarding the city's environment, which includes precinct plans, which analyze data regarding tree species, planting locations, tree health, planting timeframe durations, canopy cover, environmental quality, and wildlife statistics that were acquired over a 10-year period within 10 of Melbourne's precincts based on the main takeaways from this data analysis. An additional 10-year precinct plan ranging from 2025 to 2035 has been formed with the inclusion of these previously mentioned priorities, as well as focusing on attracting volunteers. For our stakeholders here, yeah, we can see that a lot of them are still the same as what was shown in the previous project proposal. But there's also some additional stakeholders here that are specific to the Scrum process plan that we have developed, the Scrum framework. So some of them are involved directly in the Scrum team, and then others affected externally. So over here we have our Scrum Master, Product Owner, Business Owner, Council Mayor, QA, otherwise known as Quality Assurance Assessor, project developers, data analysts, and agricultural scientists, local volunteers, and community residents. So these are our main stakeholders. And then we've obviously, of course, got all of our previous ones, including project investors, project managers, and yeah, and so on. We've also got our racing model over here, which is just basically showing which members of the team would be responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed on each of the stages of the project. If you'd like, you can look through that quickly. So we have the sponsors/investors, project manager, data analyst, agricultural scientists, marketing department, maintenance managers, volunteers, corporate partners, volunteer management, communication teams, and yeah, and then we've got all of the stages down here on the side. Just going over here, we have our Scrum team. This is just a diagram showing our internal Scrum team, so who is directly involved in it. And then up here, we have the outside influencing factors that are still affecting the Scrum team. So over here, we've got myself, Elise Thompson, as the product owner. Then we have Talia Tonkin as the Scrum Master. Then we have our development team over here, which includes Harrison Smith as Developer A, William Becker as Quality Assurance Assessor, Jane Evans as Developer B, Robert Johnson as Business Data Analyst, Blake Baldwin as Agricultural Scientist, Ariel Ortega as Developer C, and then that's all of our Scrum team here. Now up here, we're going to see the outside influences. So one of the biggest outside influences will be the business owner, who will also have a lot more to do with the Scrum team and the actual project processes. That's Jessica Myers. And then over here, we have Nicholas Rees, Lord Council Mayor of Melbourne, who will also be checking in on the project, though not as much as the business owner. Then we have community members and volunteers, which will be directly involved in in a lot of the project processes, such as maintenance, perhaps operating as data analysts, agricultural scientists, and just so on. It just depends on their skill and what they prefer to do. Now over here we have the benefits of the Scrum framework, where we have adaptable and flexible as one of our benefits, which allows for changes to be easily integrated into the project through the Scrum framework, faster delivery within each sprint. Uh, the data frame encourages creativity, leading to continuous improvement and better quality processes. Lower costs. This is also due to there being far less documentation and control. Increased productivity, resulting in less time and effort wasted. Improved stakeholder satisfaction. This is also due to the adaptability of the framework and consistency. It also improves employee morale, as this is a much more team member focused framework. This is also due to the Scrum Master being on hand to help and support the team. Enhanced communication, making it possible to prevent so the possibility of miscommunication will always be a threat. However, trying to invest in enhanced communication methods will help mitigate that. Effective collaboration between team members. This facilitates the effective collaboration of all of these members as they pursue the same common goal. Then we have, oh, sorry, I lost that. Yeah, Scrum framework justification. Scrum is a highly effective method when designing an agile project while placing human input and collaboration at the center of the project development. It is regarded as structured, yet also adaptable and flexible. The Scrum project also includes the product owner, development team, and Scrum Master. Each member within these roles must retain the 5 Scrum values, including courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. This is a highly collaborative framework which allows the urban forest strategy project to implement changes easily whilst delivering the end results of each stage of the project without abandoning the quest for continuous improvement or the agile mindset. Now we have the goals of focusing on the urban forest strategy. Sorry, I've just got to try and get rid of this. It's not going away. Yeah, so some of the goals would be to replace trees that are diseased or dying, maintain tree health, increasing agricultural biodiversity with regards to trees, shrubbery, and green spaces, increase canopy cover, protect and enhance the community's character, prioritize the operational work and budgets within each precinct, create a better overall environment, resulting in a better cooling system for the city, better habitats for wildlife, cleaner and higher quality air for residents. Other goals also include having no more than 5% of any tree species, have no more than 10% of any genus, have no more than 20% of any tree family. Also to reduce the effects of pests, disease, and environmental stress due to climate change and other environmental disasters. This will hopefully also be done by our maintenance teams, which will be operated through volunteers who will also be updated through new training programs. Goals focusing on the volunteer acquisition and community collaboration aspect of the Urban Forest Strategy project. So this would include adequate advertising of project goals to potential participants, volunteers and workers within each of the community. Design an appropriate outreach program to bring in volunteers from universities, members of the community, data analysts, and agricultural scientists, using agile communication methods to consistently throughout the project, implement an efficient communications platform for project team members, council stakeholders, and community members, increase the average amount of community feedback received, create a diverse volunteer team who have different specializations, for example, experience in data analysis, agricultural science, communication, management, maintenance teams, afforestation, and other areas in green spaces. Increase the number of volunteers who are retained within the project for longer periods of time, implementing better quality training programs and workshops for volunteers and management teams. Ensure that sufficient resources, materials, and additional staff support for volunteers and participants are delivered to reduce unnecessary stress and therefore volunteer burnout. Okay, here is our um, structure. So we have our product structure with our initiative being to establish a community collaborative platform to acquire and retain volunteers while increasing the community participation in urban developers. Okay, we have all of our epics here. So we have Epic 1, analyze community volunteer feedback. Epic 2, construct volunteer acquisition and retention plans. Epic 3, update through collaborative platform. Epic 4, establish additional support and an efficient volunteer feedback outlet. And then down here we have our sprints, our stories here, and then we have our subtasks. All right. Sorry, I don't know why, but this isn't letting me click very easily to the next slide. Here's our risk analysis. Over here we have our high risk, high probability ones here, and then over here we have some of the more trivial or minor to moderate kind of risks. So a trivial one would be varying levels of community education and readiness for the activities associated with this project. The reason for why this is not really seen as too much of a concern is because this project will allow for a lot of different people with many different backgrounds and education to get involved, considering that a lot of it does not require higher education except for data analysis and agricultural science, but a lot of it is going to be maintenance volunteer work. Some of our more concerning risks, however, I'm hoping that these will be mitigated by our project plan, involve worker overload or operational resistance, which lowers morale and shows project and slows the project progression, gaps in communication between management and volunteers, low community participation, which undermines the co-design and community influence on the project, issues in sudden life changes resulting in volunteers needing to withdraw from the project. That's something that we just can't control. And economic factors increasing the risk of project funding being retracted or heavily restricted. And there's many more there, but I'll just move on. Here are our SMART goals and deliverables. So you can see here that we have all of the original SMART goals from our project plan proposition. And then down here with the highlighted SMART goals, those are specific to our Sprint 1, Epic 1 Scrum framework. So over here for specific, through data analysis and planning, ensure that sufficient resources, materials, and additional staff support for volunteers and participants are delivered to reduce unnecessary stress. When volunteer enrollment rate growth rate, canopy cover, biodiversity, and wildlife population increases, that will be how we measure the efficiency of our goal and whether or not it's working. This is an achievable goal through personalizing tree health through the stewardship of volunteers and workers as realistic, assuming that the project goals are effectively communicated and training programs are utilized. This is relevant as all of these goals seem worthwhile, considering that each of these goals provide a significant benefit to the overall project in regards to the community connection outcome improvements, developing a diverse volunteer team, aiding in tree health and biodiversity, increase of volunteer registrations, and investing in sufficient communication methods. Now, in terms of time, sorry, the goal of improving volunteer acquisition, communication, and more personalized methods of stewardship will be accomplished within 9 weeks, depending on training programs. But it will take at least 1 year for these improvements to show visible influence on tree health, depending on tree species. Now, for our product structure and prioritization of deliverables. So I've already mentioned these epics before, they're the same as within our other structure. Um, Here are our correlating stories. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to go through the Epic 1 sprints. So the Epic 1 sprints, we have Epic 1 Sprint 1, access email, receive center, and extract relevant community feedback. This is going to be based on 10 years worth of data from each of the precincts. E1 Sprint 2, clean acquired feedback data and generate an analytical report. Epic 1 Sprint 3, design improvements for the training and tree health maintenance teams and systems. Yeah. Now over here, we're going to see our product structure, deliverables and everything again. And here's our sprint backlog. So over here, you'll see for sprint 1, we have these 3 epics and sprints. Sprint 2 only has 2 epic and sprints. Sprint 3 only has 1. Sprint 4 has 2 as well, and Sprint 5 also has the 1. Okay, and over here we have our sprint goals. For sprint 1, the overall goal is data extracted, cleaned, and exported by data analysts ready for designing improvements in training and tree health maintenance systems for volunteers. Sprint 2, the goal is marketing and communication plans designed and reviewed. Sprint 3, implement community collaborative platform. Sprint 4, design training programs and feedback for volunteers. Sprint 5, review and release plans. Okay, here are our subtasks. So for Epic 1's Sprint 1, we have so access email receive center and extract relevant community feedback. And our 3 subtasks for that section is to connect to the email database. Data analysts will within each precinct will separate useful emails from non-project relevant emails from within the community feedback. Extract data and create a data set. And then for Epic 1 Sprint 2, we have clean acquired feedback and generate an analytical report. And for our subtask, generate an analytical report. For Epic 1 Sprint 3, we have design improvements for the training and tree health maintenance systems. Now, that is going to be considered as our done project for that sprint, so there is not going to be a subtask there. Moving on, we have our sprint backlog, which is going to be used to show a short-term plan of how we're going to structure this sprint. So for the early stages of the project before we get into the heavier implementation aspect. Most of these are consistent with version 1 data analysis, whereas version 2 focuses on community collaboration and volunteer feedback. Yep, so that doesn't start just yet at this point until after we get all of this data and we devise a plan. So you can see here we've already got Epic 1 Sprint 1 and Epic 1 Sprint 2 in progress. The reason for this is because this is something that is already started up here. And we've been able to go and devise all of these data sets depending on the precinct. So for those that are done earlier, we then get to move it on to the next section in order to have the data cleaned and acquire the feedback and generate an analytical report. Yep, so over here, we've already been pre-selecting a lot of the data from emails, although not all of it, which means that we've already been using this and cleaning it during the second step here. Over here, we have our product backlog. Yeah, and also our label diagram. So again, we have all of our epics here at the top, and we have each of the symbols correlating as a key. So down here, you're going to see the product backlog. You can see here that the project actually starts on the 13th of October officially with version 1.0 data analyzer. And then Epic 2 starts on the 4th of November. Epic 3 starts on the 11th of November. Epic 4 starts on the 17th of November, and then it all ends on the 14th of November. By this stage, we're also going to be using versions 1.0 and version 2.0, so both the data analyzer and the collaboration version for the community. Down here we have our product backlog again. So you'll see here that Epic 1 is not included here. The reason for that is because we've already started the sprint for that. So it gets moved out of the backlog because this is a current sprint that we're doing, which means that it is not coming up. It is not preparing to get ready. It is already in process. Whereas, sorry, I'll just move this quickly. We have all of these. You'll see here, a lot of it is consistent with version 2, community collaboration and volunteers, except for the last one of Epic 4, Sprint 2. This is where we go back to version 1.0 of the data analyzer. The reason for this is because we are using an agile mindset in order to make this project and to continuously improve it. Which is going to result in us going back at the end of the project, collecting all of the data, all of the new data that we have now collected, and comparing it with the old one to see how we have improved, whether or not the project is working, and how we would need to change anything during our sprint retrospect. Yeah, and then so that's why we've got it as data analyzer. Because we kind of, in a way, go back to step 1, except with a bit more information and an idea of what we're already doing. For our prioritization framework, so I've used a Gantt chart for this. Yeah, and that's showing the milestones and deadlines. So over here you can see that Sprint 1, yeah, starts here on the 13th of October, ends over here in early November, and then the day after that, Epic 2 and all of those sprints start up here, the second sprint. And then while this one, after we're about a third of the way through on Sprint and Epic 2, then that's when Sprint 3 gets to start up with that other team because it's going to be using the information that it gets here to start actually implementing the plan. Yeah, and then over here, these two kind of work together, though this one always has to start shortly before. So this is for establishing additional support for the volunteers. This one is for updating through collaborative platforms. This one is to construct volunteer acquisition. So that's going to be all of our marketing and everything. And while all of those volunteers are still coming in, then we are going to use our collaborative platform to try and retain those volunteers. And while that is happening, we're going to also establish additional support, and we're going to keep on trying to improve our project. So then we can make the community collaboration far better. Okay. Scrum 1 dashboard. Yep, so this is focusing on, again, Sprint 1. So these also have our subtasks added to them. That's why they're not quite, like all in the same place. They're a little bit spread out. That's because there's a lot of different aspects to them. So for Epic 1, so in progress, we have connect to the email database. We've already done that. Um, and we're also in the progress of data analysts within each precinct will separate useful emails from the non-project relevant emails from the community. So that's also being done now. And then after that, we're going to extract the data and create a data set. Yes, this is going to be where it gets cleaned, where we clean our data. Okay, then we can move on. Yeah, to the next sprint. Generate an analytical report based on community feedback for a marketing project and volunteer roles. Now that's still in the to-do section. That doesn't have any subtasks yet. And then down here we have uh, number 3, which is to organize workshops for current and new volunteers depending on specific roles, and create a criteria for goals for volunteers to focus on, including tree health, canopy cover, biodiversity, etc. So we've still got a while before we get to this point, but it should happen fairly quickly, considering that all of these steps, all of these sprints, they're each going to last approximately 3 weeks. And then, yeah, sorry, if we go back here, so they're all going to last approximately 3 weeks, or more accurately, probably 22 days before, yeah, it ends. But that doesn't mean that the next one can't technically also start up before this one here ends, except for here. That one needs to end first before the second one can begin. Okay, we'll just have a look at our required resources. So for the total cost, it'll be about $531,500. So this will include community feedback resource categories with an estimated Australian dollar annually of 7,500 for community and volunteer interactive workshops. And then we have training and educational campaigns and materials for 15,000. This is also going to include venues as well as trainers and the materials that will be needed for it. Community feedback portal setup. So this will include our community collaborative platform. Uh, about 8 grand, that sounds about right. Volunteer support. Then we have management tools and workforce support here. I just want to point out quickly, while a lot of this is the same as what was shown in our project planning proposal, these down here are specific to Scrum. So that's why it looks a lot higher than what it was before, because we've also implemented this. So if the software for planning and Scrum process, especially if we're using a lot of different templates, it's going to be about 4,000 yearly, just a once-off payment, or you can just do it in installments throughout the year. Again, there's going to be 4 grand total for that, for the Scrum team. So considering how the Scrum team will probably be working for about 12 weeks, we're only looking at Scrum 1. It's going to be about 24 grand per Scrum team member. We have 8 members during the 12-week period. And it's going to equate to about 192,000. And we're going to get a total of $531,500. So we're just looking for something for our definition of done as well. I just want to say, while each sprint and story has a start and end date, the agile mindset being implemented into this project means that there will be advancements and extensions for this plan, as we will collect additional data and feedback from from the community volunteers and continue to improve the project processes. The project will continue past the definition of done. Um, of course, as the project meets specific goals such as improved tree health, community engagement, canopy cover, environmental condition, and wildlife conditions, it will be seen as aspects of the project to be seen as done. However, this will likely result in the project initiating programs that value the maintenance and advancement of these goals. Thank you for your time and have a nice day. Sorry, I'm just trying to stop the recording. Okay, bye.